Hi, everyone. Welcome to Writing Stories with Kimberly D. Tate and Ellen Spilsbury. Happy New Year.
Happy New
Today,
Year.
today we thought we would talk about support systems. All of us who write know that it's a very isolating and isolated undertaking. And so having a support system that we can use to talk writing with is really important. Kim and I have each other, and we both find it very nourishing to have another writer who's delighted to hear us talk endlessly about novels and publishing and writing techniques because our families and our friends, despite trying their best, tend to look a little bit, let's say, they're trying not to look too bored.
Yeah,
when
yeah.
we,
They get the
when
sort of
we,
like glazed look on their faces when
that's
if you
right.
start talking about it. My sister says, "I'll talk about your book till the cows come home, but I don't want to talk about anybody else's book." And
There
I'm
you
like,
go.
"Why not?" But I just finished this really good book, and I want to talk about it.
That's right. So that's what Kim and I do for each other. Um, this past year, we've made an effort to reach out to other local writers just to build a few contacts. Um, Anybody following our Facebook pages would have seen that we had lunch with author Gillian Dagg, who was actually a mentor to us many years ago. And so we spent a day reconnecting with her. It was a really interesting
Oop.
experience. Sorry, I have a dog here who is
Yeah,
now trying to crowd past my my chair.
that happens.
Yeah, and then local writer Richard H. Stevens, who writes fantasy novels, is someone who started his professional career around the same time as I did, and in the time that I've written two novels, he has written about a dozen.
Yeah.
So, so he has a lot more experience at this than I do or Kim does. But it's still very interesting to touch base with someone like him and learn a bit from him and just chew the fat. Um, The other thing that I've been looking into is the possibility of writers' groups. And I think there are some local writers' groups, and I'm sure a lot of people out there who are authors probably belong to writers' groups. I used to belong to a writers' group, and it was a very wonderful experience, but that was many years ago, and everybody seems to have gone their own way. What about you, Kim? Where do you find you get your support?
Well, my twin sister, she's like my first editor, and I'll give her my rough draft. And I always say she stops me from making a total idiot of myself. If there's something in there that's just like, oh, no, please take this out. So she stops me from making a fool of myself. Although I'm still pretty good at making a fool of myself occasionally,
Aren't
aren't
we
we all?
all?
Aren't we all? That was like a big whoops. But yeah, so I mean, as I said before, she'll talk about my book and my writing, but she kind of draws the line, like she doesn't want to hear about anybody else's book because she isn't really much of a reader, but I have trained her very well. So she's my first editor, and I depend on her to keep me on the straight and narrow. And if there's something really embarrassing in the book, then she'll say, "I don't think you should leave this in. It's kind of and I'm like, "Okay, I'll take it right out." So she's definitely very supportive of my writing. All of my family is. I'm very lucky to have a family who's very much behind my writing career, and they're willing to read anything I hand them, good, bad, or ugly, or indifferent. And not many of them are like avid readers, but a couple of them are. My stepmother, for one, is an avid reader, and she's been very kind and read everything I handed to her. But my sister's the one that does a lot of editing with me, so I really depend on her. And like I say, I have a really supportive family, and I'm very lucky because I know there's people out there whose families try to talk them out of writing and don't want to hear about it, and why don't you get a real job sort of a thing. So I'm very lucky that way. But as far as support system, I mean, I have my editor, and I can bounce ideas off of him, and I have taken some writers courses in the past. Well, that's how you and I met, was in a writing course. Yeah, way back when, and I think it was the 80s, wasn't it?
Yes,
we
it
were
was.
so
It was.
young.
We
We
were
were
so
so young
young.
back then, I know.
That's right. I know. I agree. I think it was a couple of years ago. I was looking for a support system, and that was back before you and I had reconnected. And I had gone to a local science fiction conference with the sort of the intention that I put out to the universe that I would meet somebody. And I met a local author from a neighboring community who was offering workshops. And at the time I thought, oh my God, like not more courses. But there she was again the next year when I went, and I thought, well, maybe the universe is telling me something. And I did take her workshops, and it was exactly what I needed at the time. And
Yeah.
a book that I'll be releasing this year, my vampire series, was a direct outcome of going to her workshops.
Okay.
So yeah, so support and inspiration sometimes come where you don't actually expect it to come, and a lot of it, I guess, is being open and receptive
Well,
when it
I
does show
think,
up.
yeah, I think too. Beta readers can be a good support system. They certainly aren't going to be like an editorial service, but even just reading somebody else's story and trading off and getting some feedback from beta readers, especially someone who you don't know, who hopefully they're going to try and spare your feelings, but at least they don't know you, so a lot of the errors are going to jump out at them, whereas your family are probably going to try to be really nice to you. So it's good to have somebody who doesn't know anything about you to read your book, because they can put fresh eyes on it. And I find that even just trading off with people, like I've read books from people in the UK and we've traded off, and there's been a couple of real gems, and most of them need a little bit of work to get up to snuff, but there's been a few real gems. And one lady I read for her, and the last time I contacted her, she had an agent, and I was felt quite privileged to kind of put my 2 cents worth into her book, and maybe it helped, I don't know. But yeah, I'm sort of following along her career, and hopefully it'll take right off. But you try to get support wherever you can. And I know there's some people who are just writing a very isolated experience and they just don't have anybody. But I think the takeaway is that you have to reach out to people.
Yes.
And, the more you reach out, and what I find is the more people that I can even look at 3 chapters and send them 3 chapters, like it doesn't even have to be the whole book, but just keep reaching out to people. And especially with social media, I mean, the world is your oyster kind of a thing. And I've met some people, not personally, but people that I would never have thought that I would meet and have their support. And one person, I read his book a couple of times for him, and he actually mentioned me in the acknowledgments, and I thought that was really nice. So
Yeah.
So just keep reaching out to people, and social media can be your friend, and you get your support wherever you can find it.
Very true. And I guess on that word of wisdom, we'll say goodbye for today. Thanks for tuning in, and check us out again next time. Bye for
Bye
now.
now.